Welcome to Her Hoop Stats. I am Helen Williams, and today I get to work with this dude. I can't believe Tyler DeLuca. I have not worked with you
Yeah,
the entire season. I don't know what BMAC was
I
thinking,
don't know.
but we get to work together
I'm excited.
today
I'm
on
excited.
Her Hoop Stats. So happy to have you here. Let me just say, if you guys follow social media, you can find us everywhere, wherever you get your podcasts, all the social media platforms. Please make sure and subscribe. But Tyler, I
Yes.
just first thing I want to do is I just want to check on you
Mm.
in terms of Oklahoma football. I
Yeah.
know that you were personally there. I just want to
Yes.
make sure that you're okay. We don't need to send some, medical personnel to
You
come take
know,
care of you.
if the medical personnel were needed, it would have been on that Friday night. Being there in person, that we'll always have that first quarter, where the energy was high, the score was
You
even
sound
better.
like you're breaking up with a girlfriend. We'll always have
It it,
this.
it felt like it. It felt like it. Finally, we've been through. We've had a tough couple of seasons, so I was happy to be back in the playoffs. I don't take that for granted.
Okay.
17-0 is hard to stomach when you blow that lead, especially when that's we tied for the highest blown lead in college football playoff history with ourselves about in the Rose Bowl against Georgia a while back. So we're really setting the worst types of records, but we could beat Texas and not be in the college football playoff. So I will take that in with my rivalry bias on the college football side that will never go away no matter what I do in the media. It'll always be
Okay.
there with Red River. So you know what? I've processed it, and it is what it is at this point. It is what it
Okay,
is.
but you still have Oklahoma women's basketball. You still have the
Yes.
Thunder,
Yes. There's
so
still
you're,
plenty.
you're going to
There's
be
plenty
okay.
of good basketball.
Tyler, just when you're having your weak moment, Tyler, I just want you to remember it just means more.
It always means more in the SEC. Now that I'm in the SEC, I feel like I'm officially indoctrinated now. It just means more officially at this point. It always means more. So if nothing else, I
That's
have that.
funny.
If nothing
That's
else, I
funny.
have that.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to check on you, make sure you're okay.
I
So let's get to some
Yes.
basketball. I want to start with Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I want to start with if you think they are for real. They just beat Baylor.
Mm,
They beat Baylor without Talia Scott, who averaged 20 some points a
yeah.
game. But Bailey Maupin, Bristow, two double figure
Mhm.
scores. They're about to go into conference play. And so obviously, not having lost a game, doing much better than they did last year at this point.
Sure.
What is your thought on them?
Well, in terms of if they're for real, I think I'm ready to say yes, they are a for real team in the sense of are they going to do some damage in the Big 12? I absolutely. I mean, we're already seeing it with this win against Baylor, right? And I'm hesitant to kind of put them immediately in the preseason. I talked about this on here. I had in the Big 12 my kind of top four teams in the preseason, which
And
in no
who were
particular.
they? So
Yes,
people will
so
know.
for no particular order directly, it's Baylor, Oklahoma State, TCU, and Iowa State. And frankly,
Okay.
I didn't have much expectations going into this season for Texas Tech. They had lost some stuff to the transfer portal. Like I didn't really have any expectation, frankly. So does it say you're already here at this point with multiple Power Four wins in non-con, not against the best of the SEC or the ACC or whoever, but
The
you're
Power
not
Four is Power
you're
Four.
power 100%, and you're not playing just kind of community colleges or whoever to go and get an undefeated record at this point. So I think at this point you have to say to some degree is Texas Tech for real? Absolutely, and I think that this Baylor win it's it's an interesting one because it has the ranked number by it, and that means something 100% just in terms of the way people will look at you, the way your resume stacks up. That means something 100%. You're kind of bound to now have an asterisk both with Talia Scott obviously being out, who has been incredibly impactful for Baylor over the course of this year on the offensive side of the ball, especially with the scoring that you mentioned. But Baylor has just been. I haven't been as high on Baylor as I had hoped to be at this point, just
Okay.
in general with Baylor. So I think I'm equally looking at this game and being like, okay, Texas Tech might be higher up in the tiers of the Big 12 than I anticipated. but Baylor also might just be a little bit lower and maybe than I had anticipated as well. So I'm kind of going both ways with this, but ultimately, again, Texas Tech, I had no expectations really at all. And so to be here at this moment, undefeated at Christmas, is an incredible achievement that I think you absolutely have to respect and say that to some degree, and I think in Big 12 we'll find out what that degree is, but to some degree, this is a legit dangerous team that's ready to make some damage and make some noise really in the Big 12.
But to what do you attribute the improvement from last year to this year?
I think for me, it's you have a bit more well-roundedness. Like just in terms of what you're kind of seeing. Again, you had mentioned like Bailey Maupin coming in and what she's been able to do this season. I've been very impressed with her. I mean, again, it feels like there is to a degree just at the top, especially with your three scorers that are in double figures. It just visually and like the vibe of this team when you're watching it just feels better. And I'm honestly having kind of troubles pinpointing exactly what the difference is in terms of that way. But it is honestly in a lot of ways a feel for me when I'm watching this team where I'm like, this team is so incredibly well oiled again for a team that had lost some important pieces to the portal coming into this season. So I've just been impressed by how fast this team has been able to kind of click and be together and go and get these wins again against various levels of opponents across different conferences and non-con, and now being able to kick off Big 12 play with this win is an incredible achievement. So to me, I think the biggest thing is for a team that I didn't really know what to expect from, they felt like they knew each other very well from the very first tip off of this season. And that's what I think has impressed me most with them.
I think also they went into portal to get a new coaching staff. So your
Sure.
thoughts on that as well. What do you think?
Clearly doing well, right? I mean, like, and that's where it kind of comes in, where it's like this feels like the most well-oiled Texas Tech team we've seen in a while. I'm just in terms of again being able to play together, having multiple players that are contributing in this way on both sides of the ball. Like it just feels like a good team, and that hasn't been something you could say about Texas Tech. Respectfully, it hasn't been something you've been able to kind of say about them in a confident way, where again you feel like they're going to go and make noise, even if they've had talented players, in Lubbock at different points over this time period. But they just look well oiled, and that's not something we've been able to say about Texas Tech for a while now.
Yeah, maybe they've been able to benefit from the Cody Campbell NIL fund, like softball and like football.
Goodness, yeah. I mean, what a heck of a time to try and kind of put this together for the women's basketball program with that in mind. Like, I mean, if you're able to go and set a standard this year, knowing what the investment has been into NIL there, I'm intrigued. I mean, we've obviously seen like in the Big 12 how transfer portal, I mean, with TCU, I mean, the past 2 years now, like how impactful the transfer portal can be when you just bring in these high impact players.
WNBA incubator, come here, 100%. Get better, get drafted 100%. Immediately.
So I'm interested in kind of, well, obviously we still got a whole rest of this season to play out and everything, but even looking ahead, like if this is, I'm not expecting them to stay undefeated the entire season by any means, but like if they're able to go and place top 3 in the Big 12 or whatever that looks like, what this program can kind of take from that and build upon with it. I'm very, very intrigued by Texas Tech, both like in the immediacy of this season, but also going forward and what this program could look like.
So do you think it's sustainable?
I think it can. I mean, again, when you have in terms of this season or in terms for long term?
I'm just talking strictly for this season. I mean, money's going to be there, so if they're smart, they'll use it, appropriately. But just in terms of this season.
Yeah, I mean, again, so far so good, right? And I think until we haven't seen them exposed at any point, where it feels like, oh no, that's bad. Again, I'm not saying that they're about to go beat UConn, but like this is a team where we just haven't really seen them be truly exposed in any type of way. And so with that in mind, can it happen? Is it bound to happen to a degree? Potentially. So like, again, I'm not saying that they're going to go and stay undefeated, but when you reach this point of the season and you're still undefeated and you have like a legit schedule that seems to be in line with where, your team is at, where there's a couple of games where if you told me like some of these games were flipped going into the season, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, you play Mississippi State, Arkansas, SMU. These are teams that at varying levels of degrees in their own conferences given, but going into this season, they felt like pretty even matchups to me with Texas Tech, and you go and you win all of them. And to me, again, that's where that kind of consistency comes in that has just only been kind of put an exclamation point by with this win over Baylor. And again, you have the Talia Scott injury, and that's very important for Baylor, and kind of has to be mentioned with it. But to me, it's kind of like until proven otherwise. I'm kind of ready to believe and just see where the story kind of develops with Texas Tech right now, where there isn't one thing where I'm like, oh no, still not a good team. Like, I'm just ready to see where this team kind of goes, honestly.
Well, that's a great segue to my next team, which is LSU,
Mm-hmm.
who, with their schedule, they have their believers who say, hey, that's the way to do it so you
Yeah,
can develop confidence. And then there's the other side who says a cupcake schedule, you haven't been tested. I looked at their stats, and I'm a big believer in depth, but I'm
sure,
even an even bigger believer in productive depth,
sure.
right? And so they have a great bench where, and it's kind of cheating because when you talk about depth, Full Wiley's coming off the bench. That's cheating, right?
That's
She's
the
a starter
luxury.
now. They've got 7 players that are averaging double figures,
Mm,
from the bench, but she's cheating. She's averaging 15.9 points a game, 3.7 steals. She's a proven commodity in terms of
sure.
competing against the top level. What's your thought on the depth of LSU now that they're about to get into the conference schedule? She's played with different lineups. She knows who can do what. I think
Hmm.
she's probably figured out who she can trust in real time situations in terms of the youngins.
Hmm.
What's your thought on LSU and their depth?
Yeah, to me, and kind of to your point, like obviously the main game that we've seen from LSU this non-con was the game against Duke, and Duke isn't the team that we anticipated them to be when we were looking at this preseason. So my opinion is relatively unchanged with LSU in terms of I think that the floor that is being set by their star power on the perimeter is incredibly high. They have a very high floor. The ceiling comes from the bigs and the depth that you've mentioned, and how far they can push that ceiling in terms of where are they ready to be in the tier with South Carolina and Texas in the SEC play? That's where the bigs come in, and I think Grace Knox has been able to show a lot over the course of his non-con. I've been very impressed with her. But again, like the forever but with LSU is the competition that they've played, and so I try and take a lot from that Duke game because again, even though Duke isn't the team that we thought they were going to be record wise, like there's still a level of I feel like of competency with Duke basketball, and Duke gave them a game early on, and LSU took their first punch of the season and turned it all the way up, and had their perimeter players running, going, stealing the ball, easy buckets in transition, those type of things, and so I'm interested if the bigs can hold their own. And this is a year in the SEC where, I mean, obviously Joyce Edwards has been very productive as more of a four, but you don't really have like those like kind of true dominant fives. It feels like in that way, like we've seen in the past years at times with the SEC. So you might be able to get away with a little bit more youth at the in the big position than maybe you're accustomed to in the SEC. And so I
Yeah.
think that fully plays into LSU's favor 100%, while also just allowing your Grace Knox or a Kate Koval just to continue kind of growing into these positions that you're putting them in. So to me, I still remain very unchanged where it's like your top three of your perimeter stars, phenomenal. I mean, there's no debating, there's no questions. You know what you're gonna get to a degree from those players on any given night, and you can trust any one of those players to kind of be like your star performance, if you will. And you can trust that while also expecting them to play defense, which is incredibly important. The ceiling and where that goes is based on the bigs. And that's still, frankly, kind of a question where it's like I've seen things where I'm like, oh, I like that. That's great. But you still have the butt of all this with LSU, which is the opponent. And so I think we might be able to learn very quickly about LSU, but I don't know what to think about the bigs or anything going until we see it against the other SEC teams and just that higher level of competition.
Yeah, and I think with the exception of Full Wiley, who again it's cheating, she's really a starter. Like the sustainability of the guards that are coming off the
Mm,
bench in terms of can they organize things? Can they get the ball to the right people at the right time?
sure, sure.
Can they defend it for extended periods of time? Because
Hmm.
Kim Mulkey's had the luxury of playing different lineups for short
Hmm.
periods of time, which not quite like Tennessee, not that kind of
Sure, sure.
substitution, but she's had the luxury of playing them, for short stints. Can they, if they need to, play for extended time if someone gets injured or if there's if someone's in foul trouble?
Sure.
That to me is also interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very, very genuine question. And I'm right there with you with it. Just in terms of, again, it's a different type of depth because like if like I want like you might watch it initially and you're like, okay, Miley for Wiley's coming off the bench, like they have depth. Well, it not exactly, and so like and I'm very interested in this thing. I'm also still kind of waiting to see, and it hasn't like reared its head as a problem yet. But between Malaysia, Flauge, and Michaela Williams, there's not like that kind of true point guard in that way. And I think you've seen like they're certainly capable of being point guards, but they're not like true through and through point guards. Like I don't know, like Roy Harmon, for example. Like, that's a true blood point guard right there that can help
Additional point
set
guard,
this all
yeah.
up 100%. And so that's another thing I'm interested in seeing if that rears its head as a problem. I don't know if it will. But like just as they play against more consistently better defenses and teams that can, I mean, against like a Texas, for example, because I mean that's ultimately the standard of who you're competing with here is Texas and South Carolina in the SEC right now. Texas ball pressure, like you got to have a point guard that can calm things down and help you out, right? I'm interested in seeing who that's going to be, and it might be a different player on a different night, with the talent that you have at the guard position. I'm just kind of interested in seeing how those things kind of slot together for LSU, and there's not even be a right or wrong answer between the three of their star players. I'm just interested in seeing like kind of how that functions whenever that ball pressure does increase. And if LSU isn't able to force turnovers for a game and they're kind of stuck more in the half court, how does that all look and function is what I'm kind of interested in seeing. And again, those things might be answered very quickly and they might not be problems at all. And it might just work itself out. But again, we just have to wait. That's the LSU conundrum of you kind of have to wait and see against these top tier opponents.
And that's why we get to talk about it and don't have to make any decisions.
Absolutely. I'm much happier in this seat.
Trust me, so am I. Okay, so since it's the holidays,
sure,
I want to ask you, and I'll give one as well. What player do you feel has been a gift to their team this year?
Yeah, for me, and this might not be like this isn't exactly an indie or underground answer, but Michaela Blake's. I mean, look, Camille Pierre leaves Vanderbilt, and it becomes like, oh, well, we don't really know exactly what the expectation is going to be. Well, Michaela Blake's lead the country in scoring, and they're still right up in the top of the top 25. Like, this is a player that just continues to be so impressive, so productive, and I mean, just as the foundation that she is for this Vanderbilt team, where you can lose a player the caliber of Camille Pierre. I mean, this is a potential 20-20 player on a given, and that's who you have walk out late into the offseason as well. And like whatever happened with that, it happened. But like
about Merry Christmas in the summer.
No, seriously. I mean, that's certainly a gift for Westmore and NC State. Like, so to see Vanderbilt, like it would be understandable for Vanderbilt to be having a down year right now. We'll see what happens in the SEC play and everything. But at this moment right now, it would have been very understandable for Vanderbilt to slip up and maybe not feel like they were best equipped to go into this season and they weren't able to fully respond to Camille Pierre leaving. And Michaela Blake says, don't worry, I got us. And is averaging 24.2 points per game. Like, that's just the caliber of player that she is. So not exactly some underground or indie answer or anything, but Michaela Blake, I still feel like doesn't get talked about enough given what she's able to do. She's had her highlight moments and everything, but I feel like Vanderbilt's just like kind of continued to creep up the rankings and just keep winning. And Michaela Blake just keeps on scoring the ball. And I still feel like we just haven't put enough respect on her name just in the general like dialogue of women's college basketball this season. So for me, it's got to be Michaela Blake's.
And Vanderbilt's not unlike their football team, who people still have they've had doubts the whole season, and look what they've been able to do, and they're still saying, "Oh, it's just Vanderbilt," and not favoring them. So that makes sense. My player is Uche Izoje from Syracuse.
I like that. I like that pick. Yeah,
this freshman is strong. She's bouncy. Her coach, obviously, Felicia Leggett, is going to develop her into a pro. She has the physical tools. She's been Rookie of the Week 3 times, averaging 63% field goal percentage, 13 points a game, half her rebounds or almost half her rebounds are offensive rebounds, and 35 blocks. That's almost three a game. And so the one thing she needs to improve on, she's only 50% from the free throw line. But that's just me as a coach. I got to find something. But this kid just came in right away and just took over. And Syracuse is a team that was not picked in the top half of the ACC. But just like Clemson, they're coming. I don't think they're going to finish where they were picked. They are coming. They've got great transfers, and I think she just adds to their toughness. And Coach Felicia Leggett-Jack, she's all about rebounding. So she loves this kid. So she is, I think, a phenomenal player. She doesn't even know what she doesn't know. She's going to be really good.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan. Again, Syracuse is a team. Again, I'm with you. Where it's like the ACC is a whole mess compared to what we maybe had anticipated going into it. But even then, like Syracuse was a team I was like, I'm liking what I'm like. There's eye emojis here. Clemson, you mentioned, is another team. Stanford was another team I was kind of like that with. Like if you told me that there's kind of a bit of a flip here in terms of maybe preseason expectations versus where teams actually end up, they're certainly one of those teams in that where I'm like, okay, yeah, like you can make this flip, and she's been an incredibly important part to that. So I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, and a great story too from Nigeria. Played in Japan. Just an incredible story. Okay, so let's move to a team that has been a gift, either to their coach or to someone else.
Yeah, I'm going with Louisville. I mean, like they've.
Oh, you took mine.
Oh well, then let's.
You took one of mine, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, like this has been a team that. First off, just incredibly fun to watch. Like they just have fun players to watch. I feel like up and down. You have like several players that could just go and score the ball and go get you a very fun bucket. Like they're just entertaining. They're in that type of way for me as like just a fan, a consumer. I enjoy watching them play basketball. But also they've been giving everyone hell with the games. I mean, like UConn and open up the season with UConn. Look. They lose by 13. That looks like a great score at this point compared to what everyone else has been doing against UConn. Obviously, you have the game against South Carolina, which goes down to literally the last shot, and it's a good shot that could have fallen. But then you still have these games against whether it be North Carolina, Tennessee, that they're going and winning. I think this is a team with Louisville that obviously you want to win the Kentucky game. Just it's the rivalry game. It's a ranked game. Like that one stings a little bit, but you have your 3 losses are against Kentucky, UConn, and South Carolina. Like all very, very good teams. And you've taken those, and I feel like they've taken those in stride, right? And you hear it non-con, like you hear coaches being like, you know what, we want to test ourselves now so we can be ready for conference play. And to me, this is a team that is ready for conference play in the best way, and especially in an ACC where, again, we thought Duke was going to be there at the top. We had these kind of different projections of different teams. Not true. Like this is a relatively open. I mean, it is an open ACC in comparison to a lot of years. Notre Dame not as strong as we know them to be at different points in the past as well. Like this is a time absolutely for Louisville to maybe with a roster that going into the season people weren't fully respecting in this way or thinking that they could go and win these games. Here they are either being very competitive with the top teams or winning, just straight up winning these games and doing it in a very, very fun and entertaining fashion just from my fan side and just the brain of just watching and being entertained. They've been a gift to me. They're going to be a gift to the ACC in terms of just trying to be competitive in March is what I feel like they are. They're going to be battle tested by the time that we are going into the March Madness tournament. And again, even if they slip up once or twice, I'm encouraged by the losses that they have taken and how they've responded. And so I'm increasingly confident in them and what they could end up doing come March and what that looks like. But right now, they've just been a team that I've very much enjoyed watching.
Yeah, and let me just say, we didn't even have this. We didn't discuss who we were going to pick before this. So I'm going to say that the state of Kentucky,
Sure.
Kentucky and Louisville have gifted the state of Kentucky with just incredible programs. And to your point about Louisville, first of all, that kid, she's going to get another game-winning shot. I know she felt bad. She missed that shot against South Carolina, but I guarantee you she's going to have another opportunity, and she will come through at that time. But you got Roberts and Siegler, who is one of the best transfer pickups in the country, and they're both averaging double figures. And you've got Jones. You've got Istanbulula, who wasn't terrible to begin with, but has improved so much from last year to this year. You've got a kid no one's talking about. McKinley Randolph is the X factor for Louisville. So yeah, I mean they've got the big win over Tennessee, the big win over UNC in overtime. So I do think at the beginning of the season, people said that the ACC championship runs through North Carolina. I think it runs through Kentucky based on
Yeah.
what we've seen. So yeah, to your point, and then Kentucky, their only loss is to Maryland, and Kenny Brooks is just wherever he goes, that guy's a winner.
Mm.
He's taking advantage of the transfer portal. Great pickup with Tony Morgan, who now can be a little less worried about putting a team on her back and facilitating. You've got Strack, you've got Key, you got four people that are in double figures. So they're the Kentucky State champions, having beaten Louisville. But those two are my gifts to the state of Kentucky. I think they are. They're ranked number 11. Louisville is ranked number 13. So easily could move up into the top 10.
Yeah, I think that we have one thing I love are the in-state matchups just in general. Like I was harping on and on when it was Iowa versus Iowa State in terms of like what that is. And I mean, we got one on our hands for a while now with Kentucky and Louisville that is going to just be increasingly more important as, especially with Kenny Brooks just continuing to kind of get his footing and build at Kentucky. And it's certainly been an incredible start so far with that. So I'm excited to see how both these programs grow just in general. Like obviously Louisville has been an impactful program already just in women's basketball generally, but I'm excited for both these programs. And I hope that like in a very respectful, ethical way that this rivalry just continues to grow and we just get high level basketball from both these teams. Cause I mean, like that's what these colleges as a whole have been accustomed to, but I'm very excited to see how that grows. And I think Kentucky's been another very, very fun pick. And again, where this is another team that like you lost a massive piece in Georgia Amore, and it would have been understandable. Kenny Brooks kind of had like his bridge year where you have Georgia Amore in the building. That helps a lot in terms of being your first year at a new program. It would have been understandable to have a bit of a drop off. And like that would have been, again, like that would have made sense to me. That would have added up very quickly. It wouldn't have been pulling a fire alarm or panicking. That would have made sense to have the drop off. We haven't seen it yet. And that is incredibly exciting if you're a Kentucky fan, that you've just, again, continued to build off that instead of it kind of having to be a transition year here.
Kenny Brooks effect. So it is, for a minute there, it wasn't a rivalry. Now we know for sure it's going to be a sustained rivalry. So
I'm excited.
Good point. I looked at the top 25.
Yeah.
And I was just curious. We you have that top 15, and then you start looking down the road, down the bottom, and I was like, who in that bottom 20 to 25 do you think could move up into the top 15? So give me a couple of your teams that you think have that possibility.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you look at the teams there. So if you're looking at 20 through 25 right now, you got Nebraska, Texas Tech, Baylor, Tennessee, Michigan State, and Princeton. Look, we talked about Texas Tech. If they just keep winning, they're going to be there. Like I mean, like if that just keeps happening, they're going to be there. Baylor and Tennessee are interesting ones to me because
me too.
It feels like they should be there, right? Like in terms of the pedigree, in terms of the talent that they have. Like if you told me that you expect them to be there, I would not blame you in terms of like thinking ahead and like hosting in March Madness. Like that is probably the expectations for both those teams this year going into this season. Tennessee has had their own struggles in like the half court at times and defensively at times. Baylor now has the injury to Talia Scott. If you told me that either of those teams kind of got it together in conference play and more so Baylor when they get healthy and they just rose back up, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But in terms of teams that like we haven't talked about, Nebraska is the one that I'm kind of looking at here because they have an opportunity to go and make a big swing because next games are USC and Iowa. And you go and win those two games, and another team that is undefeated, hasn't had the same level of schedule to the point of Texas Tech, where they haven't played the Power 4 teams as heavily in their non-con. So it's a little bit of also like, okay, prove it. Now that we're here into conference play. But if you go and beat both these teams, you're immediately there into that top 16 or so with USC and Iowa both being ahead of you in that moment. So I'll be very intrigued just for what Nebraska looks like, because this will be their first ranked games of the season. This will kind of be their first true test at that. You play USC at home, then you got to go play at Iowa. And so I'm intrigued by that. And to me, they seem like the most just like, in terms of seeing the pathway to them jumping up, that seems like the team that it just has the most obvious pathway. But you're gonna have to go and win these 2 games. And then not long after that, you got UCLA and Michigan State. So I mean, the Big Ten as a whole, like, you're just gonna have so many opportunities to prove it. And so, like, in that group, I'm looking at Nebraska. You kind of say the same for Michigan State, just being in the Big Ten. You're gonna have chances to prove it against ranked teams, and a lot of ranked teams kind of in that group as well, on top of obviously UCLA near the top. But you're gonna have a lot of chances there, and whichever team can take those chances is going to be the one that is going to stay there. Whether it's the teams that are there already and just maintain it, or a team like Nebraska that can go and make that jump.
Yeah, our colleague Christy Winter Scott, who does Big Ten games, is
Mhm.
big on Nebraska. So I'm going to defer to her and agree with
Sure.
you on that point. Um, I'm going to pick a couple teams. This will not happen, but Princeton's having a great year,
Mhm.
and conceptually they would fit what I'm talking about, but they don't have in the Ivy League any marquee games, any top
Yeah.
quad one games or whatever. So their wins, I think, are gonna, even though they're gonna win, and I do think they're gonna win the Ivy League, will not, afford them the opportunity to get to, I
Yeah.
think, that top 15 just because of the quality of opponent. But I'm gonna look at a others getting votes, and
Mm.
that would be Stanford.
I love Stanford. I'm a
They
fan.
got I think 21 votes, and the improvement from last year to this year with those freshmen, kudos to them, to that staff.
Yeah.
I love watching them play. They haven't even reached their potential. Their freshmen are going to be so good in the future, and they're not terrible now by any
No,
stretch of
not
the
at all.
imagination. So I love the way they play. They compete. Big fan of the Princeton offense. So for them, I think they were picked sixth in the ACC, but except for Syracuse and Clemson, who weren't picked in the top, I don't see anybody else that they're going to lose to, assuming they play up to their capability.
Mm.
So, having said that, they're obviously, I think, going to have a winning record, and if they could just get a couple big wins over the top, the top five, then I think that they would be able to move up. I don't know as far as top 15, but I think they should eventually be in that top 25 and not just others getting votes.
Yeah. No, I've been a big fan of I got to see some of their freshmen on the AAU circuit beforehand. I was like, okay, well, hold on. Like, I mean, not that, like, I didn't think Stanford was going to be gone for long, because I mean, there's a degree there. There's a pedigree there with Stanford. I felt like they were going to be back pretty quick, and whether it be the young players, whether it be like Nuno Gar, that's been really positive for them. Like, when they got close against Tennessee, I was like, okay, maybe not this year, but, like, like, it's like we're seeing something happen. Then they go and play Washington, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna get the win now. You kind of got. Had they lost to Washington, I would have tempered my expectations. But we've mentioned now a couple of times, like, the ACC is pretty open, and so, like, this is immediately become a much more immediate expectation for Stanford than I had anticipated having at this point of the year. Again, I liked what they were building. I didn't know if it was going to kind of come into fruition already. It feels like it is. We'll see what degree that gets to your point. Again, obviously a pretty youth reliant team in that, but they can hoop. Like, they can go and hoop. So I am absolutely expecting Stanford to go and make some noise in the ACC. And as you mentioned, if they go and beat the right teams at the right time, and you tell me that they're up a little bit higher towards hosting in March Madness time, would not be surprised at all, especially given the state of the ACC this year.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other team I just wanted to mention was, I went back and I'm looking at Tennessee, and I'm trying to find the numbers
Mm.
where the disconnect is, and their numbers are not bad.
No.
Like, their numbers are not bad if you look at all the major stats. I mean, they're averaging 29 points off turnovers. That's 35% of their total points.
Mm.
4 double-figure scores. They're causing 23 turnovers a game. They could shoot better from the free throw line. But for them, it's like situational basketball is where they are lacking. And as a coach, I mean, it could be just they need more time together because
Sure.
but we're at conference season now.
Yeah.
So can you really say that that's an issue at this point? Because everybody has new players and transfers and almost, full new teams. But they have the ability to get up there. The question is, will they play better situational basketball? In
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah. To me, it's just I feel like there's been a lack of I don't know what the floor for this Tennessee team is, and that's when I think about teams I like to trust, I like to know what the floor is, and it feels like the floor has kind of been taken out from under them a couple times this season. We just saw it with Louisville, like, and that's what makes me nervous is what is kind of the backbone of this team. Like, what do you when nothing else is working, you do X, and I feel like they
What's
don't.
your identity? Yeah.
And I haven't felt that with Tennessee, and that's where my biggest worry comes from is like if the threes aren't falling, if the turnovers aren't coming, like where do you go? And when those things haven't happened, or just when things kind of get out of hand, it doesn't feel like there's a confident punch back that you can rely on for this Tennessee team, whether it be when you get stuck in the half court or whatever it might be for Tennessee. There hasn't been that consistent floor, and that's something I really look for in teams that I like and trust, just from a projection standpoint. And that's what makes me nervous about Tennessee going into SEC play is these teams. You're gonna catch punches in SEC play, like that is bound to happen in the SEC. I don't know if I've always seen the responses that I've been looking for Tennessee, and that's where as you mentioned, the identity is a great word for it. The identity hasn't exactly shined through for me with Tennessee, and that's kind of my biggest worry right now is what do you fall back on? And I don't know what the answer right now is for Tennessee.
Yeah, but if I'm an opposing coach in SEC, I'm still worried about him.
Sure, 100%. And that's what's so intriguing about him is that like the defense is dangerous. When the turnovers are coming, like, they can when it rains, it pours at times, and you can say the same with the potential with their 3-point shooting. Like those, it is a unique team with the stylistic of it in terms of pretty much any other team you're going to face in the SEC. They're unique. They have talent. Like, and so that's what makes them like. If you're still telling me Tennessee could end this season unranked and could still end up beating one of the top SEC teams, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like that's where the kind of volatility is right now with Tennessee, where the ceiling is still incredibly dangerous when they're playing their best, but the floor is what really kind of worries me right now with them.
Again, another reason I'm happy to be behind this microphone and not on the bench.
100%.
All right, so we're at the holidays. Is there anybody you want to shout out? Anything you want to say to our listeners as we wind down the year?
Oh, just thank you to everyone who listens. I mean, this has been obviously we kind of made the switch mid-year with like the daily episodes with the Her Hoop Stats podcast. So just a shout out to everyone who's listened, who's tapped in, and hopefully kind of getting a different feel from different people, different combinations. Like I'm excited to be working with you here, Helen, for the first time. What a gift! What a gift!
I'll be back for that.
I know, what a gift. So just in general, just a thank you to everyone who's been tapped in with the Her Hoop Stats podcast. But no matter who it is on whatever day, if you're tapped in, we're very appreciative.
Yeah, and same goes for me here. Incredible team that I've worked with every week. It's been somebody different. I think I've gotten with everybody now. So kudos to everybody I've done a podcast with. Kudos to our producer extraordinaire, BMAC, who's been working overtime. And again, to everybody who's listening, as we're on holidays, I just want to make this point. People are so nice to each other from Thanksgiving until January the 1st. And then after that, things change. So I'm just asking for people to please continue to treat people right, try to do the right thing, and continue the spirit of this holiday the entire year, not just for a couple months. So we appreciate everybody who listens to Her Hoop Stats. And for Tyler DeLuca, I'm Helen Williams. Happy holidays. Have a great Christmas.